The Grand Assembly of Engineers was the most respected event in the galaxy. Every year, the brightest minds from various advanced species gathered to showcase their latest warships. It was a stage where only the strongest and smartest engineers competed. For the first time, humanity was invited. Ethan Carter, a human engineer, stood alone on the massive presentation platform. Around him, alien engineers from dominant species like the HFY, Vornix, and Grail Mach watched with smug expressions. Some whispered among themselves, others outright laughed. Why is a human even here? A HFY scientist sneered, his mandibles clicking in amusement. Do they think their primitive technology belongs among us? A Grail Mach engineer, a towering reptilian being covered in shimmering black scales, chuckled. Maybe they came to learn, not to compete. That would make sense. Ethan ignored the laughter and mockery. He adjusted his uniform and stepped forward with confidence. He had known this would happen. Humans were always underestimated. Ladies and gentlemen of the Grand Assembly, Ethan began, his voice steady. I present to you the Phoenix, a new kind of warship. The display screen behind him lit up, revealing a sleek, dark vessel unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Its design was unconventional, sharp, smooth, yet strangely organic. It didn't look like any of the bulky, armored ships that the council members were used to. For a moment, there was silence. Then the laughter grew even louder. That thing. A Vornix scientist gasped between fits of laughter. That isn't a warship. It looks like a child's toy. How does it fight? With human-made projectiles. Another alien jeered. Maybe it throws rocks. The council chamber echoed with mockery, but Ethan remained calm. He had expected this reaction. He knew that aliens relied on the same outdated principles of war: brute force, heavy armor, and raw firepower. They could not even imagine the different approach. A HFY general leaned forward, his many eyes gleaming with amusement. Tell us, human, what makes your ship special? What foolish experiment have your people attempted this time? Ethan met his gaze and smiled, a confident, knowing smile. The Phoenix doesn't follow your rules, he said simply. It breaks them. The council chamber fell silent. The laughter stopped. The HFY general narrowed his eyes. What does that mean? Ethan tapped a control panel, and the display changed. Real footage of the Phoenix in action played before their eyes. The ship vanished from one point and appeared instantly in another. It twisted in ways that should have been impossible, moving like a living creature instead of a machine. Enemy projectiles were about to hit, but then they simply missed. The ship was dodging before the shots were even fired. What? A Vornix engineer muttered, eyes wide. That's not possible. A Grail Mach scientist, who had been laughing earlier, leaned closer, his claws tightening on the table. This breaks all known physics. Ethan crossed his arms. You said humans were primitive, but while you were building bigger weapons, we were changing how war is fought. The HFY general stood up abruptly. This is deception. A trick. Ethan shrugged. Then test it. The Grand Assembly members exchanged nervous glances. They had laughed at the human, but now they weren't so sure anymore. The Grand Assembly Hall was no longer filled with laughter. Instead, a heavy silence hung in the air as the alien engineers and military officials stared at the screen. The Phoenix had moved in ways that defied everything they knew about warships. It was faster than any recorded vessel, more agile than a fighter craft, and somehow untouchable. The HFY general, Vorek, narrowed his many eyes, tapping his claws against the table. His people had studied warfare for millennia, creating some of the most powerful ships in the galaxy. And yet, this human claimed his ship could break the rules of combat. This is deception, Vorek hissed, his mandibles twitching. No ship can react faster than enemy fire. No ship can vanish and reappear at will. Ethan Carter remained calm. He had expected resistance. Aliens were stuck in their old ways, relying on brute force and overwhelming numbers. They couldn't understand the idea of something more advanced, more precise. "It's not deception," Ethan replied, stepping forward. "It's science. You rely on shields and armor. We use something else." A Vornik scientist, his silver exoskeleton glinting under the chamber lights, frowned. "And what would that be?" Ethan grinned. "Prediction." A murmur spread through the room. "Prediction," Vorek repeated, eyes narrowing. Ethan pulled up another screen. A simulation began playing, one where a standard HFY battleship opened fire on the Phoenix. The ship moved before the shots were fired, dodging before any computer could register an attack. "We developed an AI that doesn't just react," Ethan explained. "It predicts enemy movements before they happen. Every weapon fired, every trajectory calculated, before you even pull the trigger." The aliens stared in disbelief. A Gralmach war strategist leaned forward, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "That's impossible. No system can predict the future." Ethan shook his head. "Not the future. Your habits. Your ships follow predictable patterns. Your weapons fire at expected intervals. Your pilots rely on the same tactics over and over again." He motioned to the screen. "We trained an AI to see those patterns and respond before you even attack." A moment of stunned silence followed. Then Vorak let out a sharp laugh. "Clever trick, human. But prediction means nothing against raw power." He slammed a fist on the table. "A Xelfar warship can destroy a planet. A single blast can reduce cities to ash. Your ship can dodge all it wants, but one hit, and it's over." Ethan's grin didn't fade. "Oh, you think we only rely on dodging?" He pressed another button. "Watch this." The screen changed. The Phoenix wasn't just dodging in this simulation. It was fighting back. Instead of massive energy cannons or explosive warheads, the Phoenix released something strange. Small, dart-like projectiles that moved too fast to track. They weaved between enemy ships like they had a mind of their own. And when they struck, the enemy ships simply stopped moving. The assembled engineers and generals stiffened. This was not destruction. It was control. The Vornik scientist stood up, his silver body reflecting the hologram's glow. What did you do?" Ethan turned to him, his expression calm. "Your ships run on centralized systems, don't they? Networked controls, shared targeting software." He folded his arms. "Our weapons don't destroy. They rewrite. We don't need to destroy your fleet. We can just turn it off." Gasps filled the chamber. The mighty Xelfar, Vornix, and Grelmach, species that had ruled the galaxy's military technology for centuries, suddenly looked uncertain. Fear crept into their expressions. The Xelfar general's mandibles twitched. "You're bluffing." Ethan smiled. "Then let's test it." The challenge hung in the air. No one dared to speak. For the first time, the aliens who had laughed at humanity felt something they had never felt before. Doubt. The Grand Assembly Hall felt heavier than before. The air was tense, charged with something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. The mighty alien warlords, strategists, and engineers who had mocked Ethan Carter just minutes ago now sat in uneasy silence. Vorak, the Xelfar general, finally broke it. "You claim your ship can predict our movements and disable our systems," he said, mandibles clicking. "Fine. Let's see it in action." A murmur spread through the chamber. The Gralmach strategist, a towering reptilian, crossed his arms. "You wish to challenge the greatest war fleets in the galaxy." His golden eyes narrowed. "Brave, but foolish." Ethan remained calm. "You challenged me first," he said. "I'm just offering a demonstration." Vorak grinned, a sharp, toothy expression that sent a ripple of unease through the council. "Very well, human. We shall humor you." He gestured toward one of his officers. "Prepare a test. Let's see what your so-called prediction can do." A new hologram flickered to life in the center of the room, displaying a massive simulated battlefield. On one side, the Phoenix. On the other, a fleet of HFY warships. A Vornik scientist, his silver exoskeleton shimmering, examined the screen. "You will face 3 of our fastest interceptors," he said, "equipped with the latest targeting systems. If your ship is as fast as you claim, it should survive for at least 2 minutes." Ethan's grin didn't fade. "Make it 10. Another murmur spread through the room. Confidence. Defiance. It was something they weren't used to seeing from humans. Vorek's eyes gleamed. "Begin." The simulation sprang to life. 3 HFY interceptors launched forward, their sleek, insect-like bodies cutting through space at unimaginable speeds. Their weapons locked onto the Phoenix in an instant, and missed. A flicker, a blur. The Phoenix wasn't there anymore. The alien officers leaned forward in their seats. The HFY ships recalibrated, adjusting their targeting systems. They fired again. High-energy plasma bolts screamed through the void. Empty space. The Phoenix twisted, weaved, and slipped between attacks like it was dancing. The Galactic strategist's jaw tightened. Impossible. Vorek's eyes narrowed. Increase firepower. The interceptors unleashed a storm of plasma. The battlefield became a sea of red energy bolts. The Phoenix was trapped. There was no escape. And yet, it moved before the attacks even launched. Gasps rippled through the council. "Your ships follow patterns," Ethan said, watching the chaos unfold. "Your pilots think they're unpredictable. They aren't." He turned to the stunned alien warlords. "The Phoenix doesn't react. It already knows." The simulation continued. The interceptors, some of the fastest, deadliest ships in the galaxy, couldn't land a single hit. Their weapons were useless. Their pilots were powerless. The Vornik scientist stood up abruptly. "This is not possible." Ethan smirked. "You still think that?" And then, the Phoenix attacked. Not with brute force. Not with massive cannons or devastating missiles. Instead, 3 tiny projectiles shot from the ship, weaving through space like they had a mind of their own. The alien generals tensed. The projectiles hit. Not explosions, not destruction. The HFY interceptors went dead. Engines flickered off. Weapons deactivated. The ships drifted, helpless. Stunned silence filled the room. Ethan turned back to the council. "Like I said," he said casually, "we don't need to destroy you." He gestured to the frozen warships on the screen. "We can just turn you off." The air in the chamber changed. The laughter was gone. For the first time, the greatest warlords of the galaxy felt something they never expected from a human. Fear. The silence that followed the display was so thick, it felt as if time itself had frozen. The alien council, known for their cold, calculating demeanor and centuries of galactic conquests, were now on the edge of their seats. The smugness that once filled the hall had disappeared, replaced by an unsettling tension. Vorak, the HFY general, was the first to speak, his voice tight with suppressed anger. "Impossible," he growled. "No ship can predict the future. No one, human or otherwise, can manipulate time and space like that." His 6 legs shifted uneasily, his sharp mandibles twitching. Ethan's calm voice cut through the room, as if nothing had happened. "I didn't say anything about manipulating time. I just let the Phoenix see patterns that your ships can't. You think your weapons are advanced, but they're predictable. That's the key." The rest of the council sat in stunned silence, their eyes glued to the floating hologram of the HFY warships, now floating uselessly in space, as if they were abandoned toys. The Galactic strategist, known for his cold-blooded calculation, finally spoke. "You've turned our weapons off, but you have not destroyed them. Why?" Ethan looked at him with a half-smile. "I'm not interested in destruction. That's your game. I don't need to wipe you out to win. I just need you to understand one thing. A ripple of confusion swept through the council. The HFY general leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. What thing? Ethan's gaze was steady. Humanity's not a species to be dismissed or crushed. You've just learned the hard way that underestimating us comes with consequences. He took a step forward, his voice growing more intense. The Phoenix was designed to protect, to predict, to outsmart, not to destroy. But when necessary, it can. For a moment, no one moved. Then, Vorak, shaking with rage, slammed his fist on the council table. You mock us with your words. Your human arrogance knows no bounds. But you have made one mistake, Carter. You may have won this round, but you will face the wrath of every species in this galaxy. We will unite, and we will crush you. The room suddenly felt colder, as though the tension had frozen the air. The council members exchanged glances, their once confident faces now marred by doubt. For the first time in centuries, the thought of an Earth ship, an insignificant human creation, had thrown their military dominance into question. But Ethan stood tall, unshaken by the threat. Let them come. I'll be ready. Vorak snarled, turning his back to Ethan. Enough of this. We'll see how long you stay so confident when you're faced with the might of the United Galaxy. Ethan's response was quiet but firm. The galaxy doesn't know what it's up against. As the alien warlords and strategists began to disperse, the tension in the room simmered. Ethan watched them go, his mind already racing ahead. His demonstration had left them speechless, but there was more to do. Much more. He knew the fight was far from over. In fact, this was just the beginning. If anything, the Council's response was exactly what he had expected. Underestimating humanity would be their downfall, but it was the underestimation of his ship, the Phoenix, that would ultimately be their mistake. Outside the council hall, the hum of engines echoed in the corridor. Ethan could feel the weight of the coming storm. The galaxy had seen the power of the Phoenix, but it had yet to realize the true scope of what humanity could bring to the table. The Council may have underestimated him, but they hadn't seen the full potential of the human mind, or the technology they had now unlocked. As he stepped out of the hall, Ethan glanced at his crew, their faces filled with anticipation. Get ready, he said. This is only the beginning. The battle for the galaxy had just begun, and Ethan Carter, the engineer from Earth, was about to show the galaxy what a single human could do when they pushed the limits of technology and willpower. In the distant reaches of space, deep within the Council's command stations, a new plan was already forming. The HFY general and the Gralmach strategist met in secret, their conversation hushed and urgent. This human, the strategist growled, he has something we cannot yet understand. We must prepare for war. We cannot let Earth rise above us. But they didn't realize. The more they focused on their anger, the more they were playing into humanity's hands. For Ethan and the Phoenix were already several steps ahead. And the Council's fear was only the first crack in their carefully built empire. The game had changed, and the galaxy had no idea just how much. The days following Ethan's meeting with the Galactic Council were filled with tension, not just in the council halls, but across the stars. Alien factions were mobilizing, preparing for the war they believed was inevitable. But Ethan didn't focus on their threats. He focused on one thing, the Phoenix. He sat in the control room of the ship, studying the holographic displays as the crew worked around him. They had proven the ship's power once, but this wasn't about showing off. This was about survival. And more than that, it was about proving humanity's worth to a galaxy that had long dismissed them as insignificant. Captain Carter, the voice of his second-in-command, Maya, cut through his thoughts. She was standing near the ship's main interface, her brow furrowed as she looked over the incoming signals. There's movement. The HFY and their allies are assembling a fleet. Ethan's eyes narrowed, but his expression remained calm. Of course they are. What else would they do? They're coming for us, sir, Maya continued. They think they can wipe us out, end this before it starts. Ethan looked at the display, where multiple alien ships were appearing on the screen. They were enormous, dreadnoughts, heavily armed, and far more advanced than anything humanity had ever produced. But it didn't matter. Ethan had one weapon they didn't: unpredictability. "I know," Ethan said, his voice steady, "but they're not ready for the Phoenix. And they're definitely not ready for what's coming next." He motioned to his crew, signaling them to prepare the ship. The crew moved with a practiced efficiency, though there was a sense of anticipation in the air. They were about to make history. The Phoenix had already demonstrated its power, but now it would show the galaxy the full extent of humanity's ingenuity. Ethan had spent countless hours refining the ship's capabilities, tweaking every system, every weapon, every piece of technology. It was more than just a ship now. It was humanity's statement to the universe. "All systems are online, Captain," Maya reported, her fingers flying across the controls. "We're ready for whatever comes our way." "Good," Ethan replied, his eyes focused on the distant ships that were slowly closing in. "Let's show them how wrong they are about us." The Phoenix's engines roared to life, and the ship shot forward, its sleek, glowing frame cutting through the darkness of space like a blade. As it moved, Ethan's mind raced, formulating his plan. This wasn't just about surviving the incoming fleet. It was about making sure the galaxy knew that humanity wasn't a species to be underestimated. The alien ships didn't know what was coming. They were confident, even arrogant, thinking that the Phoenix was just another human vessel, a one-time fluke. But they were wrong. Ethan had designed the Phoenix to adapt, to learn, and to exploit weaknesses in any enemy's defenses. As the first wave of alien ships moved into firing range, the Phoenix suddenly banked to the left, weaving through the oncoming barrage of plasma bolts. The alien ships fired their weapons energy crackling through space, but they couldn't land a hit. The Phoenix was too fast, too unpredictable. It was as if the ship could read the movements of the enemy before they even fired. In a split second, Ethan gave the order, and the Phoenix returned fire. A massive burst of energy shot from the ship's main cannon, hitting one of the enemy dreadnoughts square in the center. The impact was immediate, and the ship exploded in a brilliant flash, its massive frame disintegrating into space debris. The Council's fleet was stunned. The first ship had been destroyed in a single shot. They had never seen anything like it. "Captain," Maya said, her voice tight with excitement, "the other ships are pulling back. They're not sure what they're up against." "That's the point," Ethan muttered, watching the display as the enemy ships hesitated, regrouping. "We don't let them regroup. We make them question everything." Without hesitation, Ethan activated the ship's advanced cloaking system, and the Phoenix vanished from the sensors. The aliens couldn't track it, and the Phoenix moved silently through their fleet, getting closer to the heart of their formation. "Prepare the secondary weapons," Ethan ordered. "We're not just going to scare them. We're going to show them that messing with humanity was a mistake." The Phoenix, now hidden within the enemy's formation, reappeared in an instant. This time, it was closer, much closer. A second barrage of energy blasts erupted from the ship's multiple cannons, striking enemy ships from multiple angles. They hadn't even seen it coming. One by one, the alien vessels started to fall, disintegrating in brilliant flashes of light. The surviving ships scattered, trying to flee, but Ethan wasn't finished yet. He wasn't about to let them retreat, not after everything they'd done. "Target their engines," Ethan ordered. "Disable their escape routes. Leave them no choice but to face us." The Phoenix's cannons fired once again, this time targeting the engines of the fleeing ships. Within moments, the entire enemy fleet was crippled. The once proud vessels were now little more than floating wreckage, incapable of running or fighting back. Ethan let out a breath, watching as the last of the enemy ships drifted helplessly in space. The battle was over, but this was only the beginning. The XL Far Fleet had underestimated humanity. They had underestimated Ethan and the Phoenix. And now, they would learn that humanity's resolve could not be broken, no matter the odds. As the Phoenix hovered in the aftermath of the battle, Ethan allowed himself a moment of reflection. The galaxy had been warned, and though the fight was far from over, humanity had just made its first move, and it had been a devastating one. This was just the beginning of the revolution. The galaxy had underestimated them. And now, humanity was ready to prove its worth. As the Phoenix drifted toward the final remnants of the enemy fleet, Ethan's voice echoed through the comms, calm but filled with determination. "We're not done yet. The galaxy will remember today. Let them think twice before they come after Earth again." And in the cold silence of space, the message was clear. Humanity had arrived, and they were here to stay. The universe had always been a vast, uncaring place, where the powerful ruled and the weak were forgotten. For centuries, the aliens had dismissed humanity as insignificant, a mere speck in the grand scale of galactic history. But after the Phoenix's devastating strike, everything had changed. The aliens no longer saw humans as powerless. They saw them as a threat. Ethan stood on the command deck of the Phoenix, gazing out at the stars. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The fleet of Selfar had been crippled, but there were still factions in the galaxy that would seek revenge. They would regroup, rebuild, and come after humanity with everything they had. "Captain," Maya's voice brought him out of his thoughts. "We've received a transmission from the Jorax. They want to negotiate." Ethan turned, his face unreadable. The Jorax were a fierce species, known for their brutal tactics and cunning minds. They had been silent in the wake of the battle, but now they were making their move. "They want to negotiate," Ethan repeated, his voice low. "What do they think they have to offer?" Maya hesitated. "I'm not sure, but we'd be wise to hear them out. The Jorax have a powerful fleet, and if they're coming to us now, it's because they recognize the Phoenix's potential. They may be willing to ally with us, or at least we can use this to our advantage." Ethan nodded slowly. The Phoenix had sent a clear message, but now it was time to play the political game. It was a dangerous path, but humanity couldn't afford to ignore the opportunity. The stakes were too high. "Send the message. Let them know we're listening," he said, his mind already turning over the possibilities. Within minutes, the Jorax ambassador's face appeared on the screen. His alien features were sharp, with a long, sleek body and glowing blue eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness of space. His voice was smooth, but there was a hint of calculation in his tone. "Captain Carter," the Jorax ambassador began, "we have witnessed the power of your ship, the Phoenix. You have shown the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. The Jorax have long been interested in Earth, but we did not expect such a demonstration of strength." Ethan didn't let the flattery affect him. He had heard enough of that from the Galactic Council. "What do you want?" he asked bluntly. The Jorax ambassador leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "We want an alliance, Captain. A mutual partnership. Your technology, your power. It could change the balance of the entire galaxy. We are prepared to offer you the resources of our entire fleet in exchange for your cooperation." Ethan listened carefully, weighing the offer. The Jorax were powerful, and an alliance with them could provide humanity with the resources needed to defend itself. But there was a catch. The Jorax were known for their ruthlessness, and trusting them could be a dangerous gamble. "I appreciate your offer," Ethan said, his voice steady, "but I need more than words. Prove to me that you're not just trying to manipulate us." The Jorax ambassador's lips curled into a smile, though it was cold and calculating. "We have already proven our strength by offering you this alliance. We know the power of the Phoenix, and we respect it. If you accept, we will ensure that no one dares to challenge you again." Ethan thought for a moment. This was a risky move, but if humanity could control the right alliances, they could become a force the galaxy would reckon with. He wasn't ready to commit yet, but the opportunity was tempting. "We'll consider your offer," Ethan said, standing tall. "But understand this, the moment you betray us, humanity will have no mercy. You will learn the same lesson that the HFY just did. The Zorax ambassador's expression didn't change. Of course, Captain. We understand completely. The transmission ended, and the room fell silent. Maya was the first to speak. So, what now, Captain? She asked, her tone cautious. Ethan looked out at the stars again, his mind racing. Now we prepare. The Zorax may offer us an alliance, but we cannot trust them completely. We need to build more alliances, strengthen our position. The galaxy isn't just going to roll over and accept humanity's rise. Maya nodded. We'll start reaching out to other factions. There are plenty of species out there who may be willing to join us. But we need to be careful. The HFY and their allies won't forget what happened here. I know, Ethan said, his jaw tightening. And they'll be coming for us. We just need to be ready. We'll show the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with, one that no one can ignore. As the Phoenix cruised deeper into uncharted space, Ethan knew that the coming days would shape the future of humanity. This was no longer just about survival. It was about turning humanity's strength into a weapon that could change the galaxy forever. The challenge was immense, but Ethan was ready. The Phoenix had defied reality once, and it was about to do so again. The stars seemed to grow darker as the Phoenix sailed onward. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of it all. The time for jokes was over. Now, it was time for the galaxy to learn what a human engineer and his ship could truly do. The deep, vast expanse of space stretched out before Captain Ethan Carter. The Phoenix, now humanity's most advanced warship, glided through the void, its sleek form almost invisible against the backdrop of distant stars. But it wasn't just the ship that was dangerous. It was the people aboard it. Humanity had made its mark. And now the galaxy was watching, waiting to see if they could hold their ground. Ethan leaned forward on the bridge, studying the holographic map that showed the movements of the alien fleets. The Zorax had sent their word of a temporary alliance, but Ethan knew better. It was only a matter of time before they made their move. A false move on their part could mean the end of this fragile truce. Captain, the HFY fleet is massing near the Corylus Nebula. Maya reported from the navigation console. They're not waiting any longer. Ethan's eyes narrowed. They think they can break us. But they're about to learn what happens when you push humanity too far. The HFY had regrouped after their last defeat. Their pride stung, but their power still formidable. They weren't alone in their desire for vengeance. The galaxy was full of species who had underestimated humanity, and now they were all too eager to see if the Phoenix was a fluke or the real deal. All hands, prepare for battle, Ethan ordered. We won't let them take Earth. Not today. Not ever. The crew sprang into action, moving with precision as they powered up the ship's weapons. The Phoenix had been designed for this moment, the moment when humanity would no longer be a footnote in galactic history. It was time to prove that Earth had a voice that would not be silenced. The first wave of HFY ships emerged from the nebula, their sleek, black ships slicing through the gas clouds like predators on the hunt. Their weapons fired in coordinated waves, and the Phoenix shook under the first few impacts. But Ethan knew that it would take more than a few hits to stop them. Raise shields. Target their weapons. Ethan commanded. The Phoenix's massive energy shield flared to life, absorbing the brunt of the first attack. The crew had trained for this moment. The battle tactics they had honed through countless drills were now coming into play. The Phoenix wasn't just a ship. It was an extension of the will of every human aboard it. Ethan wasn't alone in this fight. He had the full might of humanity at his back. Captain, Maya called out, her voice steady. The Zorax fleet has just arrived. It looks like they're here to stay. Ethan's mind raced. The Zorax had always been a wild card. While they had made promises, it was hard to trust an ally that had been so silent for so long. The question was whether they had come to help, or if they were just waiting for their moment to strike. Hold them off. We'll deal with the Zorax later, Ethan said, his voice tight with determination. For now, we focus on the HFY. The Phoenix returned fire with relentless precision. The alien ships erupted into showers of sparks and debris as human engineers' designs proved their worth on the battlefield. For every shot the HFY fired, the Phoenix fired back with tenfold strength, using its superior technology and devastating firepower to tear apart the alien fleet. But the battle was far from over. The HFY weren't backing down, and their fleet was vast. Ethan's fingers gripped the command chair tightly as he gave the order to change tactics. "Bring us closer to the HFY flagship. We end this here." With a single command, the Phoenix surged forward, its powerful engines pushing it through space at an incredible speed. The HFY flagship loomed ahead, its weapons charging up for the final strike. But the Phoenix was faster, smarter, and stronger. As the two ships closed the distance, Ethan gave the order. "Fire everything we've got. This is for Earth." The Phoenix unleashed its full arsenal, every gun, missile, and energy blast hammering the HFY flagship. For a moment, the alien ship seemed to shudder, but then it began to fire back, launching wave after wave of destructive energy. The battle was fierce, but the Phoenix was relentless, its attacks precise and deadly. Then, with one final shot, the Phoenix's main cannon fired, its energy ripping through the heart of the HFY flagship. The alien ship exploded into a massive fireball, its pieces scattering across the battlefield. The crew of the Phoenix erupted in cheers, but Ethan's eyes never left the view. There was no time to celebrate. The war wasn't over yet. As the last of the HFY ships were destroyed, Ethan turned to face the Zorax fleet, which had been silent throughout the entire battle. It was now their turn to make a move. The Zorax ambassador's face appeared on the screen again. He looked unbothered by the chaos that had just unfolded. "You have proven yourselves, Captain Carter," the ambassador said. "Humanity is not just a threat. It is a force. We recognize your power. But be warned, the galaxy will not forgive your actions so easily. We shall see what the future holds for your species." Ethan's expression was unreadable as he looked back at the screen. Let them come. Humanity isn't afraid of anyone anymore. The transmission ended, and the crew exchanged nervous glances. The war had taken a new turn, but Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had just learned what humanity could do when pushed too far, and the Phoenix was ready to show them even more. "Set course for Earth," Ethan ordered. "We've earned a break. But we know the galaxy will never leave us in peace. Let's be ready for whatever comes next." The stars ahead seemed brighter than ever. Humanity had survived the impossible. And now, they were ready for the galaxy to learn just how powerful they truly were. The Phoenix had defied reality before, and it would do it again. The future of Earth had never been more uncertain. But one thing was clear: humanity would never be the underdog again.